So take a look. So do you recognize this symbol? It is a symbol for Apple. Once upon a time, this symbol didn't exist. It is part of a company that an American entrepreneur helped build. An entrepreneur is someone who starts a business. Entrepreneurs. The founders of Microsoft and Apple are entrepreneurs. They are people who started businesses and are who are willing to take risks to make money. Their businesses have been successful and they helped grow the American economy, creating thousands of jobs. The founders of Microsoft and Apple are just a few of the thousands of entrepreneurs that helped build the country's economy and culture. How do they help? So entrepreneurs build businesses and organizations, they employ people and purchase goods and services. Entrepreneurs inject money into the economy. So entrepreneurs and businesses have helped grow the American economy. True or false? So true. Yes. It's all connected. The economy is the state, country, and other countries are all connected. Strong economy, state economy grows. Americans earn and spend money in state. U.S. companies hire more people. Strong American economy, U.S. companies sell to other countries and make money. Strong global economy, people in countries have money to spend. Weak economy, weak global economy, people in foreign countries have less money to spend. Weak American economy, U.S. companies sell less goods and services internationally. U.S. companies make less money, need fewer employees. Americans have less money to spend in state. Weak state economy weakens. Strong economy, the global economy is the overall economy in the world. When it is strong, it usually means that people have money to spend. The United States sells many goods and services to countries around the world. When American companies export goods and services, they're making money and employing people. When people are earning money, they can contribute to the state's economy, buying goods and services, helps make their local economy strong. When American companies export goods and services, they're making money and employing people. True or false? So true. Yes. Weak economy, when the global economy is weak, it usually means people have less money to spend. The United States will export fewer goods and services. American companies will need fewer employees because they are not making much money. That means some people lose their jobs and do not have money to contribute to the state economy. Local businesses have a difficult time offering goods and services. The local economy is weakened. So when the global economy is weak, it means people have what? So less money to spend. Across the country, there's a wide variety of businesses across the country. The conditions in the area will attract certain types of businesses. South Carolina is home to companies and universities that research clean fuel and power sources. Both General Electric and Clemson University have facilities that research wind energy. U.S. entrepreneurs, John Pemberton invented the syrup for Coca-Cola. Walt Disney created the Walt Disney World theme park in Florida. Steve Jobs is the co-founder of Apple Inc. It's all connected. State economies do not stand alone. They're connected to the U.S. economy and the world economy. How does it work? People pay federal tax in the United States when they work. Some states also require people to pay tax on what they earn. The United States and states use the money to run the government and services for people. This helps the economy. People also use the money they earn to buy goods and services in states and all over the world. What did I learn? Entrepreneurs are business people who take risks to make money. They play a big role in the development of the economies of the state and the country. These economies are closely connected to the world's economy. Businesses are often established in certain areas because of the unique conditions of the place. We can see this off the coast of Massachusetts, which is a great place for fishing. So when the economy is strong, what does that usually mean? People have money to spend. Yes. And which of these is effective for weak economy? So skip the first one. So let's do this. So to join, you can click this link in the chat. So this is how you can join. So how does the economic way of thinking influence economics as a social science and policy tool? So by emphasizing rational decision making, incentives, and trade-offs to understand individual and societal behavior, guiding policy decisions towards efficiency and optimization. Yeah, good answer. The economic way of thinking applies rationality, incentives, and optimization of principles to understand human behavior, shaping both economic theory and policy formation. Excellent. The economic way of thinking influences economics as a social science and policy tool by emphasizing rational decision making, opportunity costs, and efficiency of markets. By understanding human behavior, ad advising governments, and making informed choices. By applying economic principles, we navigate complex social and policy challenges, always balancing positive analysis. The economic way of thinking, rooted in rational decision making and incentives, shapes economics as a social science, providing a framework to analyze human behavior. Emphasizing the role of market mechanisms, economists often advocate for market-oriented solutions to economic problems. Moreover, tools such as cost-benefit analysis provide a structured approach. Yes, excellent. And then, what is the concept of production possibilities and opportunity costs? Production possibilities illustrate the maximum combinations of goods and services an economy can produce with given resources, while opportunity cost refers to the value of the next best alternative. Yes. Opportunity cost is what we lose by choosing one option. Excellent. Production possibilities illustrate the maximum output combinations of two goods an economy can produce, given its resources, while opportunity cost is the value of the best alternative, next best alternative forgotten. Yes. The concept of production possibilities and opportunity cost is fundamental to understanding economics. Yes. Excellent. And then how can resources be used efficiently for economic growth? Mhm. So by ensuring that resources are distributed equitably due to the according the area's need, yes. Efficient utilization of resources is essential for fostering economic growth, yes. Efficiently utilizing resources for economic growth involves investing in human capital, embracing technological advancements, developing infrastructure, allocating resources wisely, etc. Yes. Resources can be used efficiently for economic growth by allocating them to the most productive uses, fostering innovation, investing in education and infrastructure. Efficient resource allocation optimization. Resources can be efficiently utilized for economic growth through investments in education and technology, fostering innovation, promoting competition, improving infrastructure, and implementing policies. Yes. What are the benefits of economic coordination and gains from trade? Specialization, efficiency, increased consumer choice, economic growth, mutual gains. Excellent. Economic coordination facilitates specialization, resource allocation efficiency, and economies of scale, while gains from trade include increased consumer choice and access to cheaper goods. Yes. Economic coordination facilitates efficient resource use, while gains from trade enhance prosperity, cultural exchange, global interconnectedness. Yes. Economic coordination and gains from trade enable specialization, efficient resource allocation, increased productivity, and broader access to goods and services, leading to higher standards of living. Yes. Economic coordination and gains from trade offer numerous net benefits to participating parties, economies of scale and specialization, increased efficiency, lower prices, improved standard of living, maximize productivity, trade accesses global markets, and competition fosters innovation. Yes. How do demand and supply influence markets and prices? Demand and supply determine market equilibrium, where prices adjust to the balance of quantity, demand, and supply. reflecting consumer preferences and resource availability. Yes. Demand and supply determine market prices by their interaction. High demand relative to supply leads to higher prices, while low demand or excess supply tends to lead to lower prices. Yeah, so demand and supply determine how much of the product is available and how much people want it. Like a seesaw, when demand is high and supply is low, price goes up, encouraging more production. As the price of a good goes up, consumers demand less of it and more supply enters the market. Price is too high, the supply will be greater than demand. Demand affects prices, supply affects prices, interplay determines equilibrium price, shifts alter equilibrium, prices adjust to balance. The interplay between demand and supply shapes market outcomes, determines the price we pay for goods and services. Demand represents the quantity of good or service that consumers are willing and able to buy at various prices, while supply represents the quantity of that good or service, where consumer preferences and production capabilities determine the equilibrium price, ensuring efficient resource allocation. What is market equilibrium, and how can changes in price and quantity be predicted? Market equilibrium is where demand equals supply, and changes in price and quantity can be predicted through shifts in demand or supply curves relative to each other. Market equilibrium is when the quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, creating a balance between buyers and sellers. Point where demand and supply curves meet, where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied, balancing the market at the clearing price for goods to exchange efficiently. Market equilibrium is where demand equals supply, establishing stable prices and quantities. Change in price and quantity is predicted through the shifts in demand and supply curves. Yes. Market equilibrium is a point where the quantity demanded by consumers is equal to quantity supplied by producers. This occurs at the equilibrium price where supply and demand curves intersect. Yes. What is the role of aggregate supply and aggregate demand in economics? Determine the overall levels of output, employment, inflation, and economy through their interaction of different price levels. Aggregate supply and demand show the total production and spending in an economy, guiding policymakers and businesses in understanding and managing economic fluctuations. Aggregate supply, production, aggregate demand, consumption. Aggregate supply and aggregate demand model the total output and price levels in the economy, guiding policymakers in understanding and managing fluctuations in economic activity, inflation. Aggregate supply and aggregate demand are fundamental concepts in macroeconomics to describe the relationship between total supply and total demand of goods and services in the entire economy. Aggregate supply represents total quantity of goods and services that firms in the economy are willing and able to produce at different price levels over a specific period. Understanding the interplay between aggregate supply and aggregate demand helps policymakers manage economic stability, growth, and inflation. So, how is gross domestic product measured, and what are its uses and limitations? GDP measures economic output but has limitations, excludes non-market transactions, ignores income inequality. Yes, good points. GDP is measured by adding up the value of all goods and services produced in a country. GDP is measured by tallying a nation's total production. It's used to assess economic growth, but has limitations like excluding non-market activities and overlooking income inequality. Yes. GDP is measured by summing the value of all goods and services produced within a country's borders. It's used to gauge economic health, but has limitations like neglecting non-market activities. Correct. Excellent. So GDP is the total expenditure on goods and services by households, government, businesses, and trade balance within a nation's borders in a given quarter or year. Consumer spending plus investment plus government spending plus exports minus imports is known as the expenditure approach for measuring GDP. Yes. What are the concepts of employment and unemployment? What defines employment and unemployment? So employment is referring to individuals actively working, and unemployment indicating those without jobs actively seeking employment. Yes. Unemployment rate is the amount of people who are actively looking for work but can't find a job. Employment levels, number of people who are working in the market. Yes. How is inflation and deflation related to the price level? So inflation refers to general increase in the price level, while deflation is general decrease in the price level. Inflation is rising prices, deflation is falling prices. High inflation is normally associated to higher price levels. Inflation refers to general increase in the price level, while deflation is general decrease in the price level. Inflation increases price levels in the economy, deflation reduces prices. Inflation and deflation are both related to changes in the overall price level. Inflation signifies a general increase in prices, while deflation indicates general decrease in prices. Inflation is when prices rise over time. Deflation is when prices fall over time. It's called deflation. Inflation refers to a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services, leading to a decrease in the purchasing power of money. Inflation refers to a general increase in the price level of goods and services over time, while deflation refers to general decrease in price level. Yes. So, what are the basics of economic growth, and how does potential GDP grow? So economic growth involves increasing production and income over time, with potential GDP expanding through improvements in technology, labor productivity, and capital accumulation. Economic growth, more goods over time, potential GDP grows, tech capital productivity. Economic growth is driven by factors such as increase in productivity, technological advancements, investment, and population growth. Potential GDP grows through expansions in the labor force. Potential GDP grows as an economy enhances its productive capacity through investments, innovation, and skilled labor, ultimately raising the maximum sustainable output level. Economic growth happens when a country produces more goods and services over time. Potential GDP grows by investing in technology, education, infrastructure, and increasing the size of the workforce. Economic growth is fundamentally about expanding an economy's productive capacity as measured by potential GDP through increasing labor, capital, and productivity. Yes. Why does labor productivity grow? And what are the theories, evidence, and policies related to the growth? Labor productivity grows through advancements in technology, education, and efficiency improvements. Labor productivity grows tech, capital, education, theories, solo, endogenous, evidence, capital, tech investment, policies, education, R&D, infrastructure. Labor productivity grows due to factors like technological advancements, capital investment, and improvements in human capital. Labor productivity growth is driven by an increase in physical capital, technological progress, and human capital development. Labor productivity grows due to various factors, including technological advancements, investments in physical and human capital, improvements in organizational efficiency, and economies of scale. Yes. What are expenditure multipliers and how do they relate to the Keynesian model? Expenditure multipliers represent the magnified impact of changes in spending on overall economic output, consumption, income. Measures how changes in spending impact overall economic output, and they're central to the Keynesian model, which emphasizes the role of aggregate demand in economic fluctuations. Expenditure multipliers amplify spending changes. Keynesian model highlights multiplier effects. Yes. So, how do financial institutions and financial markets influence finance, saving, and investment? Financial institutions and markets facilitate the flow of funds between savers and investors, allocating capital efficiently, influencing interest rates, and shaping investment decisions. Financial institutions and markets facilitate the flow of funds between savers and investors, enabling savings to be channeled into productive investments, ultimately driving economic growth. Yes. They facilitate the allocation of financial resources from savers to borrowers by intermediating between surplus units savers and deficit unions borrowers. Financial institutions such as banks enable saving, borrowing, and managing money. Financial markets allow buying and selling investments like stocks and bonds to help money grow over time. Yes. Financial institutions and markets enable the flow of funds from savers to investors, shaping interest rates and investment choices. Yes. Financial institutions and markets make it easier for savers and borrowers to do business with each other. They do this through directing funds, offering financial goods, setting interest rates, and giving. Yes. Financial institutions and financial markets are essential components of the financial system that facilitate the flow of savings to productive investments. Yes, excellent. So let's take a 15-minute break. So we will interest rate. The government plays a role in this market by borrowing to finance a budget deficit. Yes. Loanable funds market facilitates fund exchange between savers and borrowers, influencing interest rates, and is influenced by governments through monetary and fiscal policies. Yes. The loanable funds market matches savings with investment demand through interest rates. Government actions, fiscal and monetary policy can influence this market, affecting borrowing levels. Loanable funds market connects people who want to save money with those who need to borrow it. Governments oversee this market by regulating financial institutions and influencing interest rates. Loanable funds is crucial in the financial system. It helps transfer funds from savers to borrowers for investment and spending. Government policies help regulate and ensure financial stability. It allocates savings to borrowers for investment, while the government may intervene through policies affecting interest rates and credit conditions to influence borrowing and lending activities. Loan fund markets coordinate supply and demand of funds for investment, determining interest rates. Governments can influence these markets through fiscal and monetary policies. Loanable funds match savers, borrowers set rates. Government regulates and intervenes in markets. How does the banking system create money, and what is the quantity theory of money? The banking system creates money through the process of fractional reserve banking, where banks can lend out a portion of deposits. Creates money through the process of lending out deposits, while the quantity theory of money asserts that supply of money in an economy directly affects the price level and economic activity. The banking system creates money through the process of fractional reserve banking, where banks only hold a fraction of the deposits and reserves and lend out the rest. Yes. Banks create money through fractional reserves. Quantity theory, money supply influences prices. Yes. Banks create money when they lend out more than they hold in reserves. This increases the total amount of money in circulation. Banks make new money by lending out some of the money that people put. According to the quantity theory of money, the amount of money in the market has a direct effect on the price people pay. Banks create money by issuing loans, which in turn increase the money supply. Quantity theory of money states that changes the money supply directly impacts inflation and economic growth from depositors' funds. Yes. So, what is exchange rate, and how does it influence the balance of payments? Exchange rate is the value of one currency in terms of another. It influences the balance of payments by affecting the cost of imports and exports, thus impacting a country's trade balance. Exchange rate value of one currency in terms of another influences balance of payments by affecting trade competitiveness and capital flows. Correct. Certainly, the exchange rate represents the value of one currency relative to another. Changes in the exchange rate impact a country's balance of payments, affecting trade, capital flow stability. The exchange rate shows how much one currency is valued in terms of another. It affects the balance of payments by changing the price of goods that are imports and Supported. Yes. Exchange rate influences the balance of payments, which is a record of all economic transactions between residents of one country and the rest of the world over a specified period. The exchange rate is the value of one currency in terms of another. It affects the balance of payments by influencing the competitiveness of exports and imports, as well as capital flows. Yes. How do global markets work? And what are the international trade restrictions? Gold markets trade goods, services, assets, trade restrictions, tariffs, quotas, embargoes. Facilitate the exchange of goods and services across countries, but international trade restrictions such as tariffs and quotas limit this exchange by imposing barriers on imports and exports. They operate through networks of buyers, sellers, and intermediaries such as brokers, banks, and trading platforms, facilitating transactions and price discovery on a global scale. Global markets link buyers and sellers globally for trading goods, services, and assets. Trade restrictions such as tariffs and quotas are government measures to control cross-border trade. Global markets thrive in supply, demand, and efficient resource allocation. International trade restrictions, while sometimes protective, can distort market forces and resource allocation on a global scale. Global markets involve the exchange of goods, services, and labor across borders. International trade restrictions such as tariffs, quotas, and sanctions impact trade patterns and resource allocation. Global markets facilitate trade and investment influenced by supply and demand dynamics, while international trade restrictions like tariffs, quotas, and agreements can impact goods and services flow. What is the case against protectionism in international trade policy? It argues that it reduces overall economic efficiency by limiting competition, raising prices for consumers, and potentially sparking retaliatory measures that harm exporters. Yes. Protectionism hampers economic efficiency, stifles competition, and can lead to retaliatory measures, ultimately reducing consumer choice and global welfare. Leads to higher prices for consumers, reduces market access for producers, increases costs for exporters, adversely affects those in poverty, and risks retaliatory trade wars between countries. Protectionism often results in higher prices for imported goods, reducing consumer welfare and purchasing power. Protectionism harms efficiency, raises consumer prices, provokes retaliation, distorts markets, hinders global growth, and risks trade wars, undermining international trade benefits. Yes. And there was one more. So, protectionism aims to safeguard domestic industries, can have adverse effects on choice, price, and efficiency in international relations. Protectionism is seen as detrimental because it reduces competition, causes prices to go up for consumers, makes resource allocation less efficient, causes trade partners to retaliate, and hurts global trade. So, how does the federal budget influence fiscal policy, and what are the supply side effects of fiscal policy? Mhm. So, federal budget influences fiscal policy through changes in government spending and taxation, which can have supply side effects on the economy. Yes. Federal budget shapes fiscal policy. Supply side effects include production incentives, boosting growth and productivity. Yes. Federal budget sets government spending and taxes, while supply side effects of fiscal policy aim to boost production and investment through actions such as tax cuts or subsidies. Fiscal policy uses government spending and taxes to impact the economy. Supply side effects of fiscal policy include changes in corporate taxes, capital gains taxes, and incentives for investment. The federal budget affects fiscal policy by setting priorities for spending and taxes. This in turn affects economic activity and long-term growth by changing the incentives to work, save, and invest. What are the objectives and framework of monetary policy, and how is it conducted? The objectives of monetary policy are to control inflation, stabilize employment, and foster economic growth, achieved through the management of interest rates and the money supply by central banks. Stabilization, employment growth, central banks, interest rates, money supply, open market operations. The main objectives of monetary policy are to maintain price stability and support the government's economic policy, typically through adjusting interest rates. Monetary policy aims to achieve price stability, economic growth, and financial stability. It is conducted by adjusting interest rates, influencing exchange rates, and managing inflation expectations. Monetary policy aims to balance price stability, economic growth, and financial stability. It involves adjusting interest rates, managing the money supply, and communicating effectively with the public. Monetary policy by central banks stabilizes prices, maximizes employment, and moderates interest rates by targeting inflation and employment indicators through open market operations interest rate. So, what is the role of monetary policy transmission and extraordinary monetary stimulus? Monetary policy transmission routes to the economy, extraordinary stimulus, unconventional crisis measures. Key role of monetary policy transmission is to influence financial conditions, aggregate demand, and inflation expectations in order to achieve the central bank's objectives. Monetary policy transmission influences economic activity through interest rate and money supply adjustments. Extraordinary monetary stimulus involves unconventional measures. Monetary policy transmission relays central banks' action effects. Extraordinary stimulus used in crises lowers borrowing costs, boosts liquidity, and aiding recovery. Yes. How does inflation and unemployment relate to the Phillips curve and the business cycle? So inflation and unemployment are inversely related to the Phillips curve, showing the trade-off between them in different phases of the business cycle. Phillips curve inverse relation, inflation, unemployment link, business cycle, inflation, unemployment vary with economic phases. Phillips curve depicts an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. As unemployment decreases, inflation tends to increase, and vice versa. Yes. So the Phillips curve once guided economic policy. Is that relation between inflation and unemployment has evolved. depicts an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. As unemployment decreases, inflation increases, but this relationship is not always stable. Correct. Yes. So Phillips curve inverse link between inflation and unemployment. Business cycle low unemployment equals high inflation expansion, vice versa contraction. Yes. So wait a few more minutes for more responses. Phillips curve shows that as employment decreases, inflation tends to increase and vice versa. This relationship explains how inflation and unemployment fluctuates throughout the business cycle. Excellent.